Hello and good morning, everyone. Today is, what is it, March 23rd. Still finishing a little bit of setup here. I'm trying to make a change to the cameras so that you get better quality on the stream. But it doesn't seem to be working. There's a lot of technical stuff that goes along with all of this. It's a good thing that I don't mind doing all the technical things as well. Good morning, Thinker. Hopefully you're doing well this morning. Oh, I still need to get my brushes out. Okay, so this morning, we're going to do exactly what we talked about yesterday at the end of the stream, was jump into the background. And the first thing I'm going to do is figure out what color I have down there by matching it, and then begin adjusting from there. And to keep it as transparent as I can for this background. But after I oil out on the background, because I can't really tell any of the color, it's so dull, really. Grab my linseed oil, refined linseed oil to be specific. And I have a little bit larger brush. Actually, I got another much larger brush, but I'm not going to use it because I don't need that much linseed oil. And I need to be careful so that wherever I put this linseed oil, that it doesn't drip down into the tiger. Because I can't be scrubbing any linseed oil all over the tiger, so we're going to throw this around like kind of in a halo pattern. And then just start scrubbing it in. And the background right now is just way too warm. We need to cool it off. But the main thing is we need to figure out its comparison with the tiger and see if we're going down the correct route that way. Or if we need, if we need to move away from what we have on the reference that we created together, that's fine too. We don't have to follow the reference specifically. Always got a chance for improving here. I keep moving this around because I want it to be as thin as possible. You wouldn't believe it, but if you don't really kind of smooth all this around, in about 2 hours or so, it'll drip a little bit. It'll create these little kind of waves. So gotta keep it thin, very thin. Do the bristles on the brushes sitting on the bottom of your brush wash become permanently bent? Yes, if they sit on the bottom. But that, and it depends on the brushes. I mean, that's what the spring is for that we were talking about yesterday, to keep them off the bottom. But like bristle brushes, I'll let them touch the bottom as long as they're shorter bristle brushes. Like I got one in there right now. It's a short bristle brush and it's not going to mess with it. Because those bristles are hardy enough to hold the weight of the brush up. But for the most part, if you can fit them in the spring on that brush washer so none of them touch the bottom, that would be best. And I believe, you know, the brush washer I got, it's made for smaller brushes. Not really big brushes, I don't think. I think you could put really big brushes in there, but they wouldn't fit in a spring. Okay, before we move forward, we got to figure out where we were on this. I'm going to start with the closest color I would think. The easiest thing that I can get to. And I'm just going to pull up all this sap green. Which is going to be super intense. I mean, I don't even need to compare this with what's on the canvas. And then lighter or darker, it needs to be lighter. More saturated, less saturated, so less saturated because it's right out of the tube. Warmer or cooler? It needs to be warmer to match what we have down here. I want to match what we have first and then adjust it. We don't know where we can go until we know where we're at. Let me do this. I'm going to move the camera so it's facing up just a little bit more. There we go. Is that too dark? Probably. Let's go a little bit lighter. Okay. So, lighter, less saturated, warmer. Light, and let's try a yellow for that. That could do, no, that will saturate it more. So we're going to have to do a combination of colors. White will make it lighter. Transparent earth orange will desaturate it. Going to need a lot more transparent earth orange. And boy, that white just kind of killed all of my sap green. It's definitely lighter now. Needs to be desaturated. Ooh, I don't have my burnt umber. That would be good on the palette right now. I got a question for you, Thinker. I asked it in the community last night. Did a quick poll. But what is the length of time that you can spend on a painting before you really feel just kind of burned out on it? So the length of time overall and the length of time within a day. Like, if you're working on, you know, a painting within a day, how long could you work on it before you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I can't work on it anymore for today. And how long do you think you could go on a painting before you're just unmotivated to continue? It's like a two-in-one question there. All right, let's see where this needs to go. Way too light, too yellow. Need more green. Let's do it with ultramarine blue and yellow. Mixing up a big pile here, and that's fine. I got a bigger brush. We're going to be putting a lot more paint around. Yeah, I think I'll ask that of anyone in this stream that comes on. Okay, that color is really close. It's a little bit lighter than the general idea that's around. and it's a little bit cooler. So I think we're pretty good. Maybe I'll darken it up a bit, and I'll keep with ultramarine blue. Actually, I'll keep some of those lighter portions. I'll start darkening it up kind of like down here. Keep it blue. Maybe desaturate it just a little bit more. Oof, that was too much burnt umber there. That's okay, I want to get into an even darker color just to get some variation back there. Now that we have all this down, I'll begin adjusting for differences in the background. Let me get this kind of general bluish color in there and like just a little dab to see where it's at. Okay, I think we're cooking now. I'm just looking at the background on my reference and trying to determine kind of where we want to go. And I don't want to do a glaze over the whole thing, like randomly just throw in a bunch of color. I still want to describe something happening back there. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to touch into this cerulean blue, which is super high tint strength. Its tinting strength is very high, so I got to be very careful with it. It will turn everything to that cerulean teal color. Time on a painting depends on how absorbed I am in the particular subject composition. I've abandoned paintings after 15 minutes and not abandoned paintings till like for 200 hours. Oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I think that's a really good answer. It really depends on, how deeply you've kind of ingrained yourself within the subject matter. How much does it mean to you? Kind of like painting what you love to paint. Okay, I think I got the coloration that I want. Now it's time to stop mixing and just put these colors down in places. And get some good variation back here so that it looks like, there's things going on with the jungle. But here's what I'm going to do. The secret to this, to keep it away from a halo, because I had talked about this before at the end of the last stream, which is there's a tendency for artists to paint up to, the tiger, and be careful not to mess up anything that we've already done. Try to not do that. Go over it just a little bit. You'll end up with doing, the edge of the tiger maybe a couple times. This could be a second time for me. But the most important thing is that when you are painting the background and the foreground, that you don't just go up to an object, because you'll end up with this kind of halo, or it'll be, the edges will end up too sharp. It'll be, it will kind of stand out as, well, here's what it'll do. It'll either sharpen up the edge too much, so that your foreground element looks like kind of cartoony, or it will create this kind of halo around, and then it will completely destroy the depth of the background to the foreground. So you want to make sure you don't do that. So there's two things you want to remember is always when you're painting, kind of go into your foreground element just a little bit. And I'm at a kind of advantage here because I'm dealing with hair on the tiger. So what I can do is kind of, go in like little chunks, and I'll obviously have to paint some of those hairs back, but not all of them. And then as far as moving outwards, what you can do, especially with like a jungle scene like this, is you don't stay within kind of like a particular width around the tiger. You keep it varied, so you go out in these kind of like random intervals, if that makes sense. So you don't like, okay, I'm gonna stay in 1 inch increment around the entire area. No, you go in and out of that, if that makes sense. And that will help you when you go to fully render the background, the rest of it, you can blend within those little sections, and no one can tell that you did one first before the other. Thank you. You say, I also like a challenge, so the more challenging the subject, i.e. the more problems I have to solve, the more interesting it is, so I'll spend more time on it. I could understand that too. It's kind of like, it's more stimulating to the brain, right? Those challenges are, yeah, just simply that. Interesting. If it's too easy, if you've done it like a million times, robotic, not gonna really care too much about it. Not gonna have that motivation that you would have. And everything I put back here is going to be very blurry. The brush that I'm using is a little bit larger. This is a Monarch 2 brush, size 2, and I don't know if you can tell, probably not because the stream quality is not the best. I'm trying to fix that. But this brush is splayed out, basically. It's an older brush, and it's not near the end of its life. What it is it's changing into something else. It's becoming useful for different purposes. And we talked about that yesterday as well. Pick the brush for the job. Pick the tool for the job. Now the overall idea here is I want to get a lot cooler with the background. Really going to be adding in a lot of cooler colors. And I'm trying to keep it as transparent as possible. Here's another question for you. Let me see if I can formulate it well. What were some of the other answers you got for your group? I haven't gotten any, well, I haven't looked at it yet, but it was a poll, so I gave kind of an idea of hours, like you know, 1 to 2, 2 to, or 3 to 5. And then the last one was, I always work, you know, finish a painting that I've started no matter what. And we're talking about multiple sessions here. This isn't like one day you spend 12 hours on a painting. I think that's rare for most artists to be able to spend that much time. And honestly, if I don't think anybody out there could do that for a long period of time. Could really spend, you know, all their day on a painting, and then the next day, and the next day, and the next day. I think burnout would be in a person's future if they did that. But you identified one thing that really keeps you motivated about a painting, or two things actually. Because one of them I associated with as well. You know, if you really like the subject matter, let's say it's really close to your heart, or maybe you have a really cool idea. You know, fan art is one of those areas where people are able to spend a lot of time on their work because they're so deeply ingrained in the story of this fan art that they, you know, are motivated to spend a lot of time on it. You see a lot of fan art out there. I think it is complicated. There's some art that I was interested in the beginning. It's like, oh yeah, I want to paint this. And then the further I get into it, hours and hours into it, I lose that interest. I wonder if that's the same for you sometimes. Actually, the one thing that that really causes me to lose a lot of interest is if I put the painting down for too long. It seems like if I have to come back to it after, you know, too long of a time, that it's hard to really get back into it. I have to really be motivated about the painting. Or other things that have, you know, the live stream itself keeps me very motivated because, you know, it's not just for me, it's for someone else. It's for you guys on the stream as well. So doing a painting for others, and I'm not talking just about commissions, although that can be motivating, but in a different way. It also makes a difference if it has a lot of teal in it, right? You're like Van Gogh in his quote-unquote blue stage, people call, where he started painting a lot of blue. Love the teal. That's good. I'm adding a lot of teal in this background, let me tell you. We're going to see here in a moment, as soon as I get some of these darker colors in, with these sticks back here, or limbs, tree limbs, if we're on course with the tiger, or if we need to make adjustments. Excuse me. It reminds me of what I was talking about a little bit yesterday, which was, this iterative way of learning. And I think a lot of people could respond well to that. Attention spans are getting shorter. I don't want to, promote that in a lot of ways. But I think you have to start somewhere. You can't say, oh, I don't care that your attention span is so short. So, it's like cold turkey. We're going to do, super long-term paintings, whether you like it or not, just so you can get away from that short attention span. I think it's better if you kind of move out of it slowly. They don't cut it out like cold turkey, as they say. Now, one thing I have learned from this painting is when you're painting just random splotches, like a jungle in the distance, okay, you're still painting objects, and you have to try and remember that. The objects in the background, it's easy for me, anybody, to just go in there and just kind of slapdash your way into this. Oh, it doesn't matter, it's all blurry. You have the chance there to end up with a lot of distracting brushstrokes that does exactly opposite of what you want it to do. What we want this to do is to fade back there, to look authentic, yet at the same time not be of interest to the viewer. So if it doesn't look authentic, it has a possibility of being distracting. So we don't want to be distracting about it. But we want to, make it look authentic. And the way you make it look authentic is you think about what you're painting. So I'm painting a bunch of limbs back here. I'm actually painting the background behind those limbs. And what I'm thinking about is each one of these limbs is going to have, light on it in some way. So it's going to have a light side and a dark side, especially, down over here. So what I can do is I can describe that. First I'll put the paint down kind of where I want it. And then I can lightly go through and soften all the edges. And also remember, there's a lot of things to remember. You're painting foliage, so you gotta work hard to keep it as random as possible. Anything that has a consistent rhythm to it, think music, boom, 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 boom. Anything that has that consistent rhythm to it, you want to adjust. We did it with the leaves here, a leaf with the same space between the other leaf, with the same space between the other leaf, in a continuous fashion, like a sawtooth, like a saw on, yeah, just like a saw. Let's fade some of this out. and I get rid of hard edges by just using my paper towel to dry all the paint out of this brush, just kind of softly go over it. I need some darker color back in there. That's too dark. Also, you know, I'm playing a little bit on atmospheric perspective. So what is atmospheric perspective? The further that things are away from you, there will be more air between you and it. And depending on the amount of particles in that air, it will change the value, the saturation, and the hue of those colors. So if you, I mean, the best example is looking at mountains way off in the distance. And then you'll have mid-ground and foreground mountains or something, you know, kind of coming towards you. And you'll see that the furthest back mountains or object will get closer and closer to the color of the sky, whatever that is. It's not always blue. Everything wants to blend into the sky, basically. The only exception to that is pure white. So a local color of white. Those will tend to get even brighter and more intense. It's really interesting. So everything I'm doing here, I'm cooling it off. I'm making it a little bit lighter. I don't want to get anywhere, so this dark area here, I don't want to get anywhere close to the darks here. Or even there. I don't want it to be that dark, so I could probably lighten this up even more. Not that much, holy cow. It's too light. Be careful of tangents as well. I just almost made a tangent right here. This stick or this tree limb in the background, actually we have it on the, it's not too distracting on the reference, the digital version, because it's far enough away, but here on the painting I have it too close. And it was creating this kind of perfect line between, so I'm just going to go ahead and blend those together, like right to the edge of the ear here. Just going to go ahead and get rid of that. It's not really a tangent. It's creating like it's kind of harmonizing with the tiger's ear too much. Like it's part of the ear. We need that separation. Tangents will create a connection between the foreground and the background that we don't want. Yeah, and I am working, I am putting some time in these little places for the background. It's important because it's right next to our center of interest, our focal point. It's going to be the first thing in the background that people see, and it needs to be have the softness and the detail enough where it doesn't distract away from our center of interest. It should enhance the center of interest, not distract away from it. So we're enhancing the tiger by changing a lot of the background to a teal-ish color. And I like the teal because it's kind of like a movie making thing. They use a lot of teal and orange in movies. I like the idea of keeping this as cinematic as possible. But I'm also letting some of those kind of reddish yellows and warm greens kind of come through. I don't want it to be too over the top teal, I guess. You can't have too much teal. If you had teal everywhere, you wouldn't have a comparison against it. All right, I'm going to step back and see how that changes everything. Yeah, it's a lot cooler back there now. I really love how the sharpness of the tiger's ears help to really pop out the tiger. And even the hairs on the tiger, once we get into the mane that kind of flows down each side of the head, it's going to look even better. The coolness really helps out. There's enough warmth back there that it doesn't look kind of over the top. What I think it needs back there is gray, actually. I think we need to add some grays. Okay, so we have a lot of green color here. Green, green, green everywhere. What makes green gray? Red. So I'm going to go straight for my Naphthal's Scarlet. Oh, this is more of a bluish green, so we got closer to purple. All right. So, well, you see, a purple would need a little bit more of a yellow to get closer to gray. So it probably would have been better to go for an orange. Maybe a transparent earth orange. Still very green here. You know, that's all relative. I'm mixing this color surrounded by green. So let's put it over top over here and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's a gray. Especially when I added more white to it, that's definitely a gray. It could be on the warmer side. Let's add some cerulean into it. And I need more of my medium. Alright. I like how there's a lot of grays kind of... It's almost like a haze is back there. Like a fog rolling in. Creates a little bit more atmosphere. Just lightly touching the canvas. Barely touching the canvas. I think I can lighten that up a bit as well. Actually, all up in here is that grayish blue haze. I'm going to jump down here into more cerulean. It needs to be a bit more blue. Nope, even more blue than that. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing up there. There we go. Sorry about that. You know, one simple trick to keep your brushwork really loose is to hold it like this. Like at the very, very tip. Like almost, you know, you barely touch the canvas and it wants to fall out of your hand. Like you really have to kind of grip it harder just to get it to stay in your hand. What it does is it removes all the control that you have on the brush itself. And everything just becomes very random. Makes things really loose. And it increases the randomness that you can do with things. There are some pieces back there that are really light. It's kind of like light is kind of showing through. Within the jungle. Now those little bits, I'm gonna get my blending brush out. It's a big brush, so it holds a lot of this oil that's in my brush soak. So I'm smashing against the edge of the side of the brush soak to try and get as much of that oil, the safflower oil, out as possible. I try not to waste that safflower oil. I want it to last me for years, really, and it can. It'll sit there for just the longest time. So for that little bit, I want super soft edges. And this is the brush to do it. Lost a little bit of that texture that I wanted. So when light from a jungle or any forest kind of passes through it, what you'll see is, you know, there'll be stumps or the wood of trees or whatever silhouetting it. So it'll be a silhouette of those things in there. So I want to make sure that I bring that in. Maybe, you know, this darker color here. Ooh, that's way too dark. Where's the value I need? I know it's around here somewhere. Come on. Gotta find it. This little darker color here could be, you know, maybe a big clump of leaves or something that are in shadow, along with other trees. And then those kind of flow into this side, and they're silhouetted by that light area that's showing through. You know, trying to make up a little story back there of what's happening. Gotta be careful with these smaller brushes back there, because they're good because they'll make all the shapes smaller, but at the same time you'll start getting into too much detail. When the best thing you can do is to be random back here. Yeah, trying to copy the perfect randomness of nature is really difficult. It takes a lot of practice. A little bit of not caring as well. Which is kind of funny. I mean, like, you just have to throw some things around. The other thing I saw when I stepped back is this area here. I'm going to bring in some more blue, but I'm going to keep it darker right there. I want it a real, like a better separation away from that ear. So I feel like if I, you know, just darken up all of this, kind of fade it all into a darker blue, it should still look authentic and really pop the ear out a bit more. You know, I think doing these kind of things where you're talking out what you're doing, adding these kind of stories to everything, you know, enhancing it in your mind in some way really helps to, you know, keep interest in your subject matter going. So that, you know, it takes nothing to spend hours and hours on a painting. Because you're actively keeping that interest up. I don't think there's any one answer to spending more time. I think there's a multitude of techniques and stuff that we can use to keep our motivation on a single painting longer. There's a lot of times I have several paintings going at once, and that helps because I'll lose interest in one and then I'll jump over to the other, work for a few days, come back to that, the previous one, and really kind of, you know, have several things going at once. I know my friend Michael Orrick, he does that with his landscape paintings. He has several things going on at once, and he'll lose interest in, you know, commissions. People are paying him thousands of dollars for these paintings, maybe even tens of thousands. And he's like, I really don't feel like doing this painting. You know, so money is not a motivator in a lot of ways for a lot of people, a lot of artists, I think. Um, I mean, some people are really motivated by it. I'm not one that's motivated by money. But there also comes a point where he's like, yeah, I don't feel like doing this, but I need to get up and do it, regardless. And so there's a little willpower that, not a little willpower, but a lot of willpower that comes into that as well. I'm sorry, I'm working all over the place. I'm kind of broadening out, and you guys aren't seeing all of that. I had moved the camera closer to hopefully get better quality on the stream. But that's not happening either. It's really frustrating me. It's something I'm going to work on, I think right away, probably after we're done with the stream today. The reason why that's bothering me so much is because I see so much more on this painting than I see in the digital version. And I want you guys to experience that too. I think it's really important. But there is a point where it's, you know, it can't reach the quality of being right in front of the painting. There's a point where it's just like not going to happen. But I know I can get closer to it than what I've got. All right, I did a bunch. I did more back here than I wanted to do on this stream. I'm gonna stand back. Yeah, I think that's really good, honestly. Are we going the right direction with the tiger? Within the coloration of the tiger, yes, I think so. Yeah, I'm 100% sure on the tiger now. Even the non-saturated colors in the head of the tiger right up in here, like the oranges that are closer to gray, still look really orange comparatively now. Those really popped out. So we have a huge separation of the background and the foreground, which is exactly what I wanted. All right. So that's looking really good. Now, let's do this. I'm gonna keep all that green on my palette. I was gonna clean it off, but it'll take too much time. Oh my gosh, it's already 5:30. I can't believe it's already been an hour. It's not right. That's not right. How is it so late already? I'm just getting started, I feel like. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quickly put in some of the longer fur on the side of the head here. And we're going to start with gray. These grayish greens. And we're going to warm it up a lot. So I'm going to go with transparent earth orange and white to lighten it up and warm it up. All right, it almost got to exactly what I wanted right away. Maybe a bit too warm. Let's add a little bit more green in there. There we go. That's looking good. And what I want to do is establish kind of the drawing of that. I need to darken it up with burnt umber, ultramarine blue, because the burnt umber is a bit too warm. Now I used to have gray on my palette. I had these Williamsburg grays, and they were very similar. Actually, they used the Munsell grayscale. I'll show you one of them. So this is Neutral Gray N4 by Williamsburg. And I think there's N2, N4, N6, N8. So 2, 4, 6, 8. And it was, you know, convenience grays, basically. To be able to, you know, have any color there, and then have 4 or 5 different values of gray, and then add those into the colors, was actually, you know, pretty nice. Helpful in some ways. Boy, that, you know, the texture on our reference is really nice over here. Hey, good morning, Ashton. How are you this morning? Getting ready for class once again. Awesome. Reminds me of a commercial when I was a kid. It was a Dunkin' Donuts commercial. I don't know. Dunkin' Donuts are big on the East Coast. There's not any Dunkin' Donuts out here on the West Coast that I know of. Especially in Chicago. When I lived in Chicago, there was a lot of Dunkin' Donuts. But there was this commercial where it looked like this Italian guy. Honestly, it looked like Mario from Nintendo. He would get up, you know, it would be like stupid early in the morning, like when I get up. He'd be really tired, and he would continue, as he's getting up and doing his stuff, getting ready for work, he would say, "Gotta make the donuts. Gotta make the donuts." And I still do that sometimes. Like, I'll wake up super early, and if I'm tired, I'm like, ugh, I gotta make the donuts. Now, I'm not making donuts. They're very bad for you. They're super yummy, but very bad for you. But I always thought it's kind of funny. Gotta make the donuts. That's what I'm thinking about for you, Ashton. When you're waking up, you're like, gotta make the donuts. Oh, I'm so tired. Gotta do the thing that we need to do to move forward. Though I think I'll eat breakfast beforehand, so I'm trying to hurry. Oh. Trina. I like that. Yeah, the worst thing is to go to class and be hangry. Or just not have any energy because, yeah, that's where your body gets the energy. From the food. There's so many people that, like, they'll wake up in the morning, they'll go, oh, I just need my caffeine for energy. And I thought the same thing too, until, I forget what book I was reading. But they actually outlined how caffeine works. And it doesn't give you energy. What it does is it blocks adenosine in your brain. Adenosine, I think I'm saying that right, is the chemical that your brain releases to tell you, I'm tired, you need to sleep. And I always thought that that was really interesting. Like, it's not providing you energy, it's masking your tiredness. So after that, I was like, okay, I'm not going to have much more caffeine. I want to know when my body's tired. And then, you know, treat it well. Okay, I'm tired. Let me take a nap. Let me go to bed early. Let me sleep in a little bit. You know. So, interesting factoid. Does the cheek on the right side look a little too bright to you? on the right side. You know, considering... Here, let's do this. Let's do a cool comparative, because I think you may be right. You're onto something. I like how you guys will always have this different perspective. It's like new eyes that I can always look out from when you give opinion or give feedback. Not just opinion, but feedback. Yeah, my bad. I'm from the South. We shorten every phrase and word. Yeah, well, I was born in Kentucky. I know how you... Well, Kentucky has a very lazy accent. We kind of mush everything together. I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. Not Louisville, Louisville. So, I know what's up. I did kill my accent later on in life because I got made fun of it all the time. What I'm trying to do here is I want to put that lighter... Because the sun, I remember right here on the left cheek, we're supposed to describe the sun there. Like, not as bright, a little bit less bright, but brighter than what I just put down. Need more orange. More red. Come on, man, this is not adjusting. It's taking forever. And I want to do a comparative because this is supposed to be, you know, brighter than anything around it. Wow, how am I not reaching that still? Yeah, see, that's like too intense. I think the colors around this area are too intense. If I have to go this far on the color to make this look like the sunlight's hitting it, definitely the colors around it are too intense. So now, I'm going to stop looking at my painting and I'm going to look at either the live stream or this little tiny screen on my camera. And when I squint down, what I see, and actually what has been revealed to me by squinting down and then really quickly looking over at my reference, is that all of this is too intense, every single bit of it. And we need to gray out the whole thing and maybe bring that value down a bit. So it's, you know, lots of oranges over there. And when I look at my color wheel, the best way to gray out an orange is with teal. Who would have thought? Very green, so I'm going to bring in some red and white. Okay. So I'm just doing some tests here before I end this stream. Now you're getting the idea. I had teal everywhere. Getting too opaque in some of these colors. So I try to never, when I'm glazing, I try to never like completely cover up what I have already put down, unless it is just so far off that there's, I have no other choice. Glazing is really for enhancing, not for repainting everything. I'm actually going to dip into these greens as well. Really bringing the intensity down over here and the value. I need my darkest dark right now. So I need to mix up some more of that. Okay. Yeah, I think that was very helpful. Made a lot of changes this morning. Actually got a lot done. Background, foreground. Figured out a lot of things. I think it's looking really good right now. Next thing I need to do is just figure out the stream so you guys can see the real quality of this painting. Oh, you say much better. Thank you so much. Okay. Tomorrow what we'll do is I'm reaching the edge of where we added in we oiled out before. I don't want to get too much closer to it because if I oil out, I'll be moving the paint around. So tomorrow I'll probably start oiling out the tiger, all the way down to the chin. So the entirety of the head, and be working, actually I need to get all of this figured out here and then more on this side. The cheeks, well, what do you call this? The jowls? I don't know. The muzzle more than anything. And so I will need to do some oiling out before I get to that. Kind of prepare for moving into those areas. But within the next few streams, maybe 2 or 3 streams, I'll be down here on the body of the tiger, which you can't see right now. And things will start moving along a lot faster, I'm sure. Because the rest of the body of the tiger will be not as detailed. Yeah, not as detailed. Accurate, but not as detailed. So we'll see. Thank you everyone for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow.